So I have 3 case studies which are Fibrovent, SQM, and a multinational company. It's like very secret because they asked me not to disclose the name as part of the, I can tell you if you want, as part of the research. And I analyzed what were their inputs, their outputs, and effects, if they happened or not, and what had enabled the inputs, outputs, and effects, and what were the missing enablers that maybe avoided this from happening. Okay. So I will just explain one of the cases, which is Fibrovent. Fibrovent is a local company in Chile who is specialized in the mining sector. They produce composites for ventilation systems in mining, and they have been very successful in doing that. So they wanted to expand their business, and they thought that renewable energy was like a market with a lot of potential, and they set as a strategic goal to become the first Chilean company to produce wind blades. So they had a number of inputs that enabled them to make this step, which were the know-how of manufacture with composites, skilled human resources. They have a number of engineers very qualified. In-house R&D, they do their own R&D in collaboration with local universities. They had invested a lot in learning about the functioning of the renewable energy market in Chile. And they have the finance as well to finance the project. So what were the enablers for this is firstly that Chile has a very big mining industry. So they have been able to create knowledge around this industry and qualified local suppliers. They also have a good education system for people who have money. So and then they have universities with very high quality and that enable collaborative research. But they realized that they still needed some external knowledge and equipment because they couldn't produce wind blades from scratch, so they needed foreign support. They needed the know-how for the production and sales of wind blades. They also needed a certified wind blade design, because even if you are clever enough to produce it, if it's not certified, nobody's going to buy it. And they needed the capital goods and equipment to produce it. So this knowledge that they needed had to flow into the country somehow. So what they did is that they hired a Brazilian expert that had worked in Enercon. So he came with all his knowledge. They also, initially they planned a joint venture with a Spanish company, but that didn't really work in the end, and they worked through a commercial relationship in which they bought the patent and the design of the blades, and they just paid for it. They imported the equipment to produce the blades, and they went to a lot of international conferences and international events to learn about it. So the enablers for this was, first, the open economy of Chile made imports very cheap, relatively. Also, their low tax for foreign employees made their salary competitive for this foreign employee that was attracted. There were also policies at the national level that enabled the hiring of this expert and the contacts with the Spanish company. There is some programs at Corfo. And well, the output was the production of wind blades. When I left them, this still hadn't happened. So there were obviously some barriers happening because they should have been producing them already by last year. So the main gaps were that Chile has implemented a policy, which is the green tradable certificates. That is not really working. So there is not enough demand in the country, and they are not producing the blades for this reason. So there is a gap in the enablers of demand in Chile. However, there are some enablers that should be working as well, but the gaps are too big, which is a very high electricity prices that should be an incentive for investment in renewable energies, and a large global demand because they want to export a lot of their production. Then as regards technology effects, this has happened already, which is knowledge spillovers to universities and increased technological capabilities of the company that was doing it. But however, there are no spillovers to local producers because they still don't have the capability. So there are some required enablers at the industry level that are missing. So I will skip through the other case studies, but there are a lot of different conclusions from different case studies. And we'll go to the final conclusions of what are the enablers of the gaps in the Chilean circumstances for renewable energy technology transfer. So at the technology input level, they have some very competitive industrial sectors, which are very focused in natural resources activities, like mining, forestry, and pulp and paper. So around these sectors, there has been a development of local suppliers that have a lot of knowledge, and there is a lot of potential for cross-sectoral spillovers. For example, in pulp and paper has been able to develop also some biomass production companies, forestry as well, mining. We have an example here, and also there is the example of SQM, who is producing salts for solar concentrated solar power. There is access to natural resources that makes renewable energies relatively cheap for some resources like hydro. There is good human capital. There is a national innovation system that works in some aspects. And there are some public funds for R&D. But the gaps are that there isn't an industrial policy to support renewable energies. And, well, as you said, the industrial policy is always necessary, like the success of China or India or Brazil has shown that it's always necessary some kind of support. And in Chile, they have a very liberal economy that is very much against having an interference in the market, but the market alone is very often not able to take these risks. Some other gaps that were mentioned by multinational companies is that there isn't a workforce that has intermediate technical skills. So you have very educated engineers and very uneducated technical people, but you don't have the medium step of people who are producing things. So this was one of the gaps in the Chilean education system. And there was also a lack, some multinational companies said, of a knowledge base in renewable energy and grid integration of intermittent generation. As regards the flow of foreign technology inputs, this was a strength of Chile. It's a very open economy that really wants foreign investors to come, and it has lots of free trade agreements, so imports and exports are very cheap. And if you talk to Chilean people, most of them have studied abroad, so, well, not most, but many of them have studied abroad, so there is contact with foreign institutions, or if they have not studied abroad, they have collaboration. Well, technology outputs, there is the high electricity that we said that is giving a signal to the market that there is a demand for more investment in electricity. But however, there is the electricity market is very concentrated, so it's dominated by very few companies. And access for smaller producers is very difficult because they don't have the power to negotiate favorable power purchase agreements. There are national demand pool policies that have worked, like more strict air quality regulation in the city that has promoted like cleaner boilers, for example. But the gaps is that the Chilean market is small, so for a company to invest in production is difficult because they're not going to have a demand big enough for the introduction of the product and test it in-house before it's sent to the international market. Then the national demand pool policies, the green tradable certificates, has not really worked for a number of implementation problems. There is a lack of an industrial fabric for mass production of technologies because, as we said, Chile is an export-led economy that is focusing on static comparative advantages that are based on natural resources availability. High concentration of the generation market, electricity prices are high but are very unstable, so there is uncertainty, etc. And then technology spillovers. The gaps are the lack of industrial policy again, and the small local demand that prevents economies of scale and learning by doing effects. So the main policy recommendations for Chile were to do some kind of industrial policy, even if they don't have to go against the philosophy of liberal economy, but to support somehow the industrial development, and also to design and implement effective demand pull policies. And some policy recommendations that can be derived for the other developing countries, even though they are very different to Chile, is that in the design of technology policies, they should take into account every aspect: the inputs, how to enable inputs at the local level, the outputs, how to create the demand for the technology, and the spillovers, how to make that these technologies spill over into the economy and create additional knowledge and the capacity to create their own technologies. Each country has to focus on one of the steps. So if you don't have enough inputs, you shouldn't be focusing on creating a demand when you don't have enough inputs to grow it. And if you don't have a demand, you shouldn't be focusing in nurturing an industry to create it, because they won't have a way to sell it. Another recommendation is to exploit cross-sectoral technology transfer. So to look at the industrial sectors that are very competitive and try to see which cross-sectoral spillovers could happen, like in mining and forestry in Chile. And then to find the balance between policies that attract foreign technologies but don't crowd out the local technology developers. And it would be interesting to analyze this in a wider number of countries to see what are the gaps in each country. So yeah, I was talking to Walter and Julia about ways in which we could expand this project to analyze the technology transfer frameworks in other Latin American countries. And that's it for me.